Hi everyone, I'm so glad you are back for our next lesson. Last time we looked at a written sample answer for paired passages and we found the R, A, 2, C, and E parts. Remember, with paired passages there are two pieces of text to read, so we have to cite text evidence from both of them. And now we are going to practice together. We will read two new paired texts, complete a Venn diagram, answer some multiple choice questions, and complete a written response using the race strategy. Here is the first passage. But wait, this is important. Before we read the passages, let's read the question for the written response so that while we are reading the passages, we can be looking for ideas that could help us answer the question. We will even underline those ideas to help us remember them. Okay, so here's the question we will be answering. What is one lesson we can learn from these texts? Use information from both texts to support your answer. So while we are reading, we can be on the lookout for a lesson we learn. And now let's read our first text, called Sunburn. It says, the sun gives off light called ultraviolet light. If these light rays shine on a person's skin for too long, it can cause sunburn. Sunburn can make the skin red, painful, itchy, and hot. But the good news is that there are things people can do to avoid sunburn. I think a lesson could be to make sure not to get sunburn, so I'll underline avoid sunburn and I'll underline some of the problems with sunburn. Red, painful, itchy, hot skin. Okay, and the next passage is called Playing Outside. One sunny afternoon, Susan played in her backyard. She went on the swing and played in the sandbox. Oh dear, her mom said after an hour, your face and shoulders are starting to get pink. This reminds me of the other passage about trying not to get sunburned, so I'll underline that part. We better put sunscreen on you, and I think you should play in the shade now. Okay, I think I'll also underline the words sunscreen and shade because those are ways to help avoid sunburn. Okay, and now we already have some ideas ready to help us when we get to the written response part. But for now, let's complete the Venn diagram. What similarities did you notice in these two passages? Think of a few ways these were similar and whisper your ideas. Let's see, you may have come up with that they are both about sunburn. They mention it can turn skin red. They both have to do with avoiding sunburn, and you may have thought of something else too. And notice we can just write short phrases in the Venn diagram. We don't need complete sentences. And now think of a few ways these were different and whisper your ideas. Let's put related ideas across from each other. You may have come up with that sunburn was nonfiction informational and playing outside was a fictional story. The first one had no characters or setting, but the other one did. The first one was about how skin gets sunburned, but the other one was about someone who did get sunburned. And you may have thought of something else too. So the Venn diagram helps us to compare and contrast two texts. And now let's answer some multiple choice questions. Number 1. According to sunburn, what is an effect of sunburn? A, painful skin, B, red skin, C, itchy skin, or D, all of the above? Letter D, all of the above. Number 2, playing outside is A or an, A, how-to text, B, fictional story, C, poem, or D, informational passage. Whisper your answer. Letter B, fictional story. And number 3, how are these two texts different? A, sunburn does not have characters, but playing outside does. B, sunburn has a setting, but playing outside does not. C, sunburn is fiction, but playing outside is nonfiction. And D, sunburn gives ideas about how to avoid sunburn, but playing outside does not. Whisper your answer. Letter A, sunburn does not have characters, but playing outside does. And did you notice that the first question is just about the first story, the second question is just about the second story, and the last question contrasted both stories? And now it's time for the written response. We already know the question is about a lesson from the stories, and we already have some ideas underlined, so that really makes our job easier now. And we may or may not use all of our underlined ideas, and that's okay. And sometimes you might end up using ideas from the text that you didn't underline, and that's okay too. Let's start with the R, restate the question. The question said, what is one lesson we can learn from these texts? Whisper how you would say the R part. We would say, one lesson we can learn from these texts is, and now whisper what your answer is. Let's see, how about one lesson we can learn from these texts is to be careful not to get sunburned, or something similar about sunburn. Next is the C part, cite text evidence. Take a look back at the first text and whisper some text evidence to prove that a lesson we can learn is to not get sunburned. And remember, you can start with one of these sentence starters. You might have said something like, in sunburn, the author explains that skin can become red, painful, itchy, and hot if someone gets sunburned. And now take a look at the other selection and whisper some text evidence. You might have said something like, in playing outside, Susan began to get sunburned since she had been playing in her backyard for an hour. Her mom noticed she was getting pink and said she should get sunscreen on and play in the shade. So there we have some text evidence from both texts to prove that sunburn is not a good thing. And now for the E part, explain. Think about what comment you can make about what we have written so far. And remember, you can start with one of these sentence starters. Whisper an idea. You might have said something like, this shows that it is important to protect our skin from the sun because it is strong enough to cause damage even if we are in the sun for just an hour. And if you add the S for sum it up, you might say something like, avoiding sunburn is important. So there we go. We read a set of paired selections, we completed a Venn diagram, we answered multiple choice questions, and we wrote a response, giving text evidence from both selections. Great work. Okay, that's all I have for us today, but before you see the next video lesson, you are going to practice doing what we did today. You will complete 2 different sets of very short paired passages that each include a Venn diagram, multiple choice questions, and a written response. For the written response, you will answer the question using the R, A, 2C, and E parts, and if you also use the S, you will add that too. Then underline the parts according to their colors and check off the boxes at the bottom. And don't forget to use one of our sentence starters for both the C and D parts. Your teacher will assign this either as an online assignment or on paper, and then he or she will check your work. See you next time!